The locker room reeked of sweat and chlorine, the kind of stale air that clung to your skin like a bad memory, when Donald's fist cracked against my jaw, sending me sprawling across the cold tile floor. "Faggot," he snarled, his voice echoing off the lockers like a gunshot in a canyon. His buddies laughing like hyenas as blood trickled warm from my split lip. I remember thinking, as the world tilted and stars exploded behind my eyelids, that this was it. The moment I'd always feared. The one where high school swallowed me whole and spat out a ghost. That was 4 years ago, in the fluorescent hell of Lincoln High in suburban Chicago. I was 17, skinny as a reed, with glasses that fogged up from the steam of the showers I avoided like the plague. Stephen Harper, me, didn't stand a chance against guys like Donald Kane, the golden boy quarterback with shoulders broad enough to block out the sun and eyes that could freeze you mid-step. He wasn't just popular. He was the sun around which the whole school orbited. Football hero, homecoming king in waiting, the kind of guy who got away with everything because his dad was the local cop and his mom baked pies for every bake sale. And me? I was the weird kid who sketched in the margins of his notebooks, dreamed in colors no one else saw, and yeah, I knew I liked boys long before I had the words for it. Donald made sure I paid for that secret every damn day. It started small. Shoving me in the halls, tripping me during lunch, whispering queer under his breath like it was my middle name. But by junior year, it escalated. Notes stuffed in my locker. Die, fairy. My backpack slashed open in the parking lot. Books scattered like confetti at a funeral. The worst was the locker room beatdown after gym class. The one that left me with a black eye and a trip to the nurse who didn't ask questions because boys will be boys. I told myself it was just bullying, the random cruelty of teenage wolves. But deep down, I wondered if he sensed it in me. The way my gaze lingered a second too long on the curve of his bicep when he peeled off his jersey, sweat gleaming like liquid silver on his skin. God, I hated him for making me feel that pull even as he broke me. I graduated early, clawed my way into a scholarship at the Illinois Institute of Art in the city, trading Elmwood's flat cornfields for Chicago's jagged skyline. For years blurred by in a haze of charcoal sketches, late-night diner shifts slinging coffee, and tentative hookups in dimly lit bars where no one knew my name. I built walls higher than the Willis Tower, convinced myself I'd outrun the ghosts. At 21, I was taller, sharper around the edges, with a portfolio that turned heads and a laugh that didn't crack anymore. But trauma's a sneaky bastard. It hides in the corners, waiting for a trigger. That trigger came on a sticky August evening, the kind where the air hangs heavy with the promise of thunder. I was at the Hideout, a dive bar in Wicker Park, nursing a cheap IPA and sketching the tattooed bartender's profile on a napkin. The place was a mosaic of hipsters and blue-collar relics. Neon signs flickering over scarred wooden tables, the jukebox crooning Springsteen like it was still 1985. I didn't notice him at first, not until the door swung open and let in a gust of humid wind that carried his cologne, that same godforsaken cedar and leather scent that haunted my nightmares. Donald Kane. Older, broader, but unmistakably him. Hair cropped military short now, a shadow of stubble framing that jawline I'd once prayed to forget. He wore a faded Blackhawks tee stretched tight across his chest, jeans slung low on hips that had filled out in ways that made my throat dry. He scanned the room like he owned it, then froze when his eyes locked on mine. Time stretched thin as a razor wire. I felt 17 again, small and exposed, my pencil snapping in my fist. "Stephen." His voice cut through the murmur of the crowd, low and rough, like gravel under tires. He crossed the room in 3 strides, sliding onto the stool next to me without invitation. Up close, the lines around his eyes were deeper, etched by whatever life had thrown at him since Elmwood. Holy shit, man. It's been, what, forever? I forced a smile that felt like glass shards in my mouth. For years. Give or take a lifetime. My pulse hammered, a war drum in my ears. Part of me wanted to bolt. The bigger part, the masochistic artist in me, wanted to study him like a canvas, see what the years had painted over the monster. He ordered a whiskey neat, his hand brushing mine as he reached for the coaster. Accidental? Bullshit. "You look good," he said, clinking his glass against mine. Different. Grown up. Yeah, well, therapy and spite'll do that. The words slipped out sharper than I intended, but he didn't flinch. Instead, he laughed. A real one, not the mocking bark from high school. And for a split second, I saw something raw flicker in his eyes. Regret? Or just the booze talking? We talked, halting at first, like two strangers piecing together a puzzle with half the pieces missing. He was working construction downtown, saving for a real estate license because, turns out throwing a ball ain't a career. Divorced parents. His dad caught with the secretary. Mom moved to Florida with a yoga instructor half her age. No mention of the bullying, not yet. But as the night wore on and the bar emptied, the conversation dipped into dangerous waters. You ever think about Elmwood? He asked, swirling the amber dregs in his glass. His knee bumped mine under the bar, lingering a beat too long. Every day, I lied, like a scar that itches. Truth was, I'd buried it deep, but here he was, digging it up with a spoon. He leaned in, breath warm against my ear. I was an asshole back then. Worse than that. He trailed off, jaw clenching. Can I buy you another? Or hell, let's get out of here. Walk. Clear my head. Against every screaming instinct, I said yes. We spilled out into the night, the city alive with the hum of buses and distant sirens. Wicker Park streets were a labyrinth of graffiti walls and overflowing trash bins, fire escapes dripping ivy like tears. We wandered aimlessly, the silence between us thickening until it burst. I'm sorry, he blurted, stopping under a street lamp that cast his face in harsh gold. For everything. The lockers, the names, that day in the showers. I was scared shitless, Stephen. Scared of what I felt. Of you. My heart stuttered. A bird trapped in a cage. What you felt. The words tasted like ash. He stepped closer. Close enough I could count the freckles across his nose. Yeah, you. The way you looked at me, not like the others. Like you saw through the bullshit. And I hated it. Hated you for making me question everything. The confession hung there, electric as the storm brewing overhead. Rain started then, fat drops splattering the sidewalk, turning the world to gloss and shadow. He reached out, thumb brushing my cheek where the old bruise used to be. I like guys, Stephen. Always have. But back then, I was a coward. I should have walked away. Should have told him to fuck off and rot in his regrets. But the rain soaked us through, plastering his shirt to his chest, and something primal snapped. I grabbed his collar, pulled him in, and kissed him hard, desperate, tasting salt and whiskey and 4 years of buried want. It was messy, all teeth and fury, but it shifted something seismic. His hands found my waist, strong and sure, and for the first time they weren't weapons. We broke apart gasping, foreheads pressed together as lightning cracked the sky. Come home with me, he whispered, voice wrecked. I did. His apartment was a third-floor walk-up in Logan Square, the kind of place that smelled like fresh paint and takeout containers, with exposed brick walls and a sagging futon that doubled as a bed. We didn't make it past the door. Clothes hit the floor in a wet heap. My button down, his jeans kicked aside like shed skins. His body was a revelation. Planes of muscle honed by labor, not just football, scars from bar fights or falls I didn't want to know about yet. He moved like he was starving, mapping me with hands that trembled just enough to make it real. God, Stephen. He groaned against my neck, lips trailing fire down my collarbone. I've wanted this since. Don't. I cut him off, fingers tangling in his hair, pulling hard. Not tonight. Words could wait. This was absolution in motion, bodies colliding like thunderheads. We fell onto the futon in a tangle, the springs creaking under us like old bones. He was gentle at first, almost reverent, kissing the faded scar on my jaw, whispering apologies into my skin. But I didn't want gentle. I wanted to erase him, to claim back every bruise with my own brand of hurt. I flipped us, pinning his wrists above his head, and rode him slow, deliberate, watching his eyes roll back, his chest heave. Say my name, I demanded, voice low and foreign to my own ears. Stephen, he gasped, arching up, sweat slick and undone. Fuck, Steven. It built like the storm outside, crashing over us in waves that left us wrecked and spent. Afterward, we lay there in the damp sheets, his arms slung heavy across my waist, the city rain drumming a lullaby on the fire escape. I traced the tattoo on his bicep, a compass rose, inked in black and gray, and wondered if he'd ever find his way. Morning came gray and unforgiving, coffee brewing in a pot that hissed like it resented the effort. He padded around in boxers, all easy domesticity, flipping pancakes with a grin that made my chest ache. Syrup or nah? He asked, sliding a plate my way. Nah. I poked at the stack, appetite lost to the hangover of what-ifs. So what now? This a one-night apology tour. He paused, spatula mid-air, expression shuddering. Nah. I mean, shit, Steven, I don't know. But I want more. If you'll let me. I wanted to believe him. God, how I wanted to. Over the next weeks, we fell into something resembling a rhythm. Texts at 2 a.m. Miss your sketches. Draw me? Late-night drives along Lakeshore, windows down, sharing playlists heavy on Bon Iver and The National. He took me to his favorite spots. A hole-in-the-wall taqueria where the Al Pastor tacos burned like sin. A rooftop party in Pilsen where we danced under string lights until our feet hurt. He was different here, in the city. Vulnerable, funny, with a laugh that rumbled like thunder and eyes that softened when they met mine. But cracks spiderwebbed early. He'd flinch at public affection, pulling his hand from mine when his construction buddies rolled by in their trucks. Not here, he'd mutter, cheeks flushing. I'd bite my tongue, remind myself he was trying. Coming out to his mom over FaceTime, her voice crackling with a mix of shock and, as long as you're happy, baby. But Elmwood lingered like a bad tattoo. One night, after a gallery opening where my pieces hung under harsh spots, abstracts of fractured boys in blue tones, he showed up late, reeking of beer and regret. Saw your stuff? He slurred, pulling me into a hug that squeezed too tight. It's intense. Like you crawled inside my head. We ended up at his place again, but the sex was frantic, edged with something desperate. As he curled around me after, breath hot on my shoulder, he murmured, I told the guys at work about us. My blood ran cold. You what? Just Jake. Swore him to secrecy. But feels good, you know? Out in the open. Pride warred with fear in my gut. Yeah? How'd he take it? Donald shifted, avoiding my eyes. Laughed at first. Called me a closet case quarterback. But then he hugged me. Said he'd have my back. It was a win, small but seismic. I kissed his temple, let myself hope. Fall deepened. Leaves turning the parks to fire. We carved out a life. Weekends at my cramped studio apartment, where he'd sprawl on the floor posing nude for my charcoals. His body a landscape of light and shadow. You're turning me into art, he'd tease, flexing dramatically until I laughed and smudged the lines. But the past is a patient hunter. It struck on a crisp October afternoon, me sketching in Millennium Park while he wrapped up a site visit. My phone buzzed, unknown number, a text with a photo attachment. I opened it and the world tilted. It was me, 17, crumpled on the locker room floor, Donald's boot inches from my ribs. Blurry, grainy, but unmistakable. The message, heard QB's gone rainbow. Thought you'd want to see this reminder. Some things don't change. S14. Elmwood High, class of 2014. One of his old crew. My hands shook as I forwarded it to Donald. Rage boiling over like spilled ink. He called me from the L train, voice tight. Steven, wait. Who the fuck is this? I demanded, pacing the beam like a caged wolf. Probably Mikey. That asshole's always been jealous. I had no idea he had that pic. Likely story. Sarcasm dripped like venom. You tell your bro Jake about us, and suddenly Elmwood's greatest hits resurface? Convenient. It's not like that. Save it. I hung up, deleted the thread, but the image burned behind my eyes. Trust, fragile as wet paper, tore clean. He showed up at my door an hour later, rain-slicked and pleading, eyes red-rimmed. Let me fix this. I'll find Mikey. Make him delete it. How? By beating his ass like you did mine. The words landed like punches, and he recoiled. Jesus, Stephen. I'm not that guy anymore. Are you? I shoved the door wider, letting him in despite myself. We argued until our voices cracked. Him swearing loyalty, me hurling accusations like grenades. It ended in silence. Him on the couch, me in bed. The space between us a chasm wider than Lake Michigan. Days blurred into a Cold War. He'd text apologies. I'd read them and ghost. Art class became my refuge. My latest series a storm of dark strokes. Bullies with lovers' faces. Redemption inked in blood red. My professor pulled me aside after critique. Harper, this is raw, painful. What's fueling it? Life? I muttered, packing my bag. Halloween loomed, the city dressing in orange and black like a bruise. Donald cornered me outside the Art Institute, where I'd been wandering the halls, losing myself in Hopper's lonely figures. One chance, he begged, grabbing my elbow. Come to this party with me. Jake's hosting. Meet the guys. See, I'm for real. Against the screams in my head, I went. The party was in a converted warehouse in Ukrainian village. Strobe lights pulsing, bass thumping like a migraine, bodies grinding in the haze of fog machines. Jake clapped Donald on the back, shot me a wary grin. So you're the artist. Donnie won't shut up about your shit. We drank, danced awkwardly in the crush, his hand finally finding mine without pulling away. For an hour it felt possible, normal even. Laughter bubbling up as he spun me under the lights, whispering, "See? This is us." Then Mikey appeared, slinking from the shadows like a bad sequel, beer gut straining his flannel, eyes glassy with spite. Well, fuck me. QB and the fairy. History repeats. Huh? Donald's arm tensed around me. Back off, Mike. We're good. Mikey sneered, pulling out his phone. Good? Like this. He flashed the photo, the crowd murmuring as it pinged from device to device. Whispers turned to stares, the air thickening with judgment. I froze, the room spinning. Donald lunged, fist connecting with Mikey's jaw in a sickening crack, echo of the past. Delete it, you prick. Chaos erupted, shouts, shoving, Jake pulling them apart. I bolted, weaving through the throng, bursting into the night where the cold slapped me awake. Donald caught up blocks later, panting. Stephen, wait. You promised. Tears burned hot, mixing with the rain starting to fall. You said you'd changed. I did. It's not. He reached for me, but I jerked back. It's everything. I walked away, the city swallowing me whole, just like Elmwood once had. Winter clamped down on Chicago like a vice, the wind off the lake slicing through coats and resolve alike. November brought the first real snow, blanketing the streets in hush white, turning the L tracks into silver veins against the gray sky. I holed up in my studio, blinds drawn against the festive lights twinkling in neighbors' windows. Christmas creeping like an uninvited guest. My phone stayed silent. I'd blocked him after the party, the photo a digital ghost I'd scrubbed from existence but not from memory. Art poured out of me in fevered bursts. A triptych of Donald, boy monster, man redeemer, fractured lover. Charcoal smudged black as my mood. Sales trickled in from the gallery downtown, enough to cover rent and ramen, but the hollow in my chest yawned wider each day. Friends, sparsely scattered art school survivors, dragged me to brunches, plied me with mimosas and, he's not worth it, pep talks. But grief's a solo sport. I ran it alone, sketching until my fingers cramped, wondering if I'd ever draw anything but pain. 2 weeks in, a knock rattled my door, insistent, muffled by the howling gale outside. I yanked it open, expecting a package, and there he stood, Donald, dusted in snow like a fallen angel, cheeks chapped red, a brown paper bag clutched in mittened hands. Heard you might need this, he said, voice tentative, holding out tamales from that taqueria we loved. Go away. I crossed my arms, but the cold seeped in, mirroring the chill between us. Please, 5 minutes, then I'll leave. Scout's honor. He held up 3 fingers, crooked from some old break, and damn if it didn't tug at the threadbare edges of my heart. I stepped aside, the door creaking shut behind him. He shrugged off his parka, revealing a sweater I'd bought him, soft wool, forest green, now smelling faintly of pine and regret. We sat at my tiny kitchen table, steam rising from the tamales like fragile peace flags. He didn't eat, just picked at the corn husk, eyes on his lap. Mikey's photo? Gone. I made him delete every copy, swore Jake to help track him down. And the asshole? I cut ties. For good. His gaze lifted, steady now. But that's not why I'm here. I fucked up, Steven. Not just the punch, though yeah, that was stupid, but letting my past poison us. You deserve better than my baggage. I unwrapped a tamale, the spice blooming sharp on my tongue. Why now? Holiday guilt trip. He shook his head, reaching across to cover my hand with his warm, calloused, familiar. Because I love you. Terrifying as shit to say, but true. Since that first sketch you showed me, the one of the lake at dawn, I saw myself in it, lost but heading somewhere. With you. The words landed soft, snowflake delicate, melting the ice I'd packed around my ribs. I pulled my hand away, but not before my fingers curled briefly around his. Love's a big word for a guy who broke my face. He winced, deservedly. I know, and I'll spend every day making it right if you'll let me. Therapy, baby steps, whatever. Just don't ice me out forever. We talked then, really talked for the first time. About Elmwood. How his dad's belt marks taught him violence was love. How my silence in the face of slurs was armor forged in fear. About now. His dreams of flipping houses into queer-friendly co-ops. My portfolio inching toward a solo show. Laughter crept in, tentative, when he admitted burning toast that morning. Smoke alarm blaring like Judgment Day. He left with a hug that lingered, promising coffee the next day, no pressure. I watched from the window as he trudged into the flurry, a lone figure swallowed by white, and felt the first thaw. We rebuilt slow, like stacking Jenga blocks after a quake. Coffee turned to walks in the snow-draped parks, mittened hands brushing until they linked. He showed up to my life drawing class one evening, sitting front row, sketching clumsily beside me. His lines wobbly, earnest, a stick-figure self-portrait that made me snort. Critique? He asked, holding it up with a sheepish grin. Needs work, I teased, kissing his temple. But the subject's hot. Intimacy returned in layers. A hand on my thigh during movie nights, binging It's a Sin with tears and tissues. Slow mornings tangled in my narrow bed, his heartbeat a steady drum under my palm. He opened up about his first crush, a summer camp counselor with kind eyes, and I shared mine, the older artist at a workshop who ghosted after one fumbling kiss. Vulnerability bred trust, fragile but flowering. But shadows lengthen in winter's grip. December brought his mom's visit, flying in from Florida, all floral prints and forced cheer. She stayed at his place, filling it with pecan pies and passive-aggressive jabs. Such a cute apartment, Donnie. When you settling down with a nice girl? We'd tiptoe around it, me crashing at my studio to avoid the awkwardness, until Christmas Eve. He invited me over for eggnog and Die Hard, tradition, he said. She was tipsy by the time I arrived, cheeks flushed, eyeing my sketchpad like it was contraband. So, Steven, she drawled, patting the couch beside her. Donnie says you're creative. What do your folks think of all this? The this hung heavy, laced with implication. Donald stiffened beside me, but I met her gaze square. They're gone. Car wreck when I was 12. But if they were here, they'd love him. The man, not the boy he was hiding from. Silence stretched, brittle as tinsel. Then she laughed, sharp, surprised, and raised her glass. Well, aren't you a firecracker? To unexpected turns. We clinked, the tension easing into tipsy carols and Bruce Willis quips. Later, as snow fell soft outside, she pulled me aside in the kitchen. He was always angry, my boy, after his dad. But you make him smile real. Don't let go. Her blessing, hard won, settled like peace. New Year's dawned crisp, the city erupting in fireworks that painted the sky electric. We watched from his rooftop, bundled in blankets, champagne fizzing on our tongues. Resolutions? He murmured, nuzzling my neck. Less walls, I said. More you. His kiss was a vow, deep and sure. Deal. January thought us further, him joining a queer men's group at a community center, me introducing him to my ragtag art circle, who grilled him like a suspect but warmed when he fixed their leaky studio sink with duct tape and charm. We planned a weekend getaway to Saugatuck, Michigan, dunes and dunesiders, a gay haven by the lake. Packing felt like promise. His flannel shirts mingling with my tees in the duffel. But betrayal's a thief in the night. It struck mid-month, me stopping by his site unannounced with lunch, subs from Portillo's, his favorite. The crew was wrapping early, catcalls fading as I waved off tools and hard hats. Donald was in the trailer, door ajar, voice low on the phone. Yeah, Mom, he's great. Intense, but yeah, I love him. Pause. Laughter. Nah, no rings yet. But soon, maybe. My heart swelled, future talk, casual as breathing. Then, Jake? He's cool with it now. Even set me up with that bartender last week. But I bailed. Told him I'm taken. The sub bag slipped from my fingers, grease spotting the gravel. Set up? Last week, while I'd been neck-deep in deadlines, ignoring the quiet nights he'd claimed were overtime. I backed away, pulse roaring, fleeing before he saw. Home. I scrolled our texts. Miss you, babe. Late shift. Dated the 12th. Lies stacked like accusations. He showed up that evening, tool belt slung low, confusion etching his brow. Steven? What's oh shit, the subs. You were there. I hurled the phone at him, screenshots glaring. Explain. His face crumpled, hands up in surrender. It was nothing. Jake cornered me at the bar after group, pushed a drink my way. Then this guy. Nothing? You let him set you up. While I'm here thinking we're solid. I didn't fuck. I shut it down. Walked out. Steven, please. Out. The word was ice, final. He left, door clicking soft as a guillotine. Days bled into numbness. I threw myself into work, the Saugatuck trip canceled with a curt email. My series sold, fractured redemption, the gallery called it a breakthrough, but the check felt hollow. Friends noticed, staging an intervention over foe. He's human, Steve. Messy. But he owns it. Too late, I muttered, chopsticks snapping a noodle. Not quite. Valentine's loomed. The city drowning in hearts and hype. I ignored it, holing up with takeout and Brokeback Mountain reruns, tears blurring the screen. A knock, persistent, midnight mad. Donald, disheveled, holding a canvas wrapped in brown paper. Go away, I called through the door. Won't. Bought this at your show. Figured it'd say what I can't. Silence, then the rustle as he leaned it against the frame. It's the one of us. Lake at dawn. I see a future there, Stephen. If you're brave enough. I cracked the door, peering at the painting. Our silhouettes against rippling water, light breaking tender. Him owning the mess. Inside, I sighed. Before you freeze. We sat on the floor, backs to the wall, the canvas between us like a mediator. He confessed. The setup was Jake's misguided test, pushing to see if he'd stray. He hadn't bought the painting, instead a talisman. I'm all in. Scared shitless, but in. I leaned into him, head on his shoulder. Prove it. His kiss was apology and anchor, slow burn sweet. We made love on the rug, deliberate, reclaiming every inch. His hands mapping scars, mine tracing tattoos. Afterward, tangled and sated, he whispered, "Marry me? Someday." I laughed, soft. Someday. Spring unfurled green and greedy, cherry blossoms rioting along the Mag Mile. We moved in together, his place bigger with space for my easel by the window. Conflicts came, small. His snoring, my clutter. Bigger. Family holidays where his aunt's side eyes met my steel. But we navigated, Therapy dates penciled in like lovers' trysts. Learning to bend without breaking. The high point crested in June. My solo show at the gallery. From shadows to light, walls alive with our story in strokes and hues. He stood beside me in a button-down I'd ironed, hand firm in mine as critics murmured approval. Proud of you, he breathed, kissing my temple amid the crowd. Public, unapologetic. You're not so bad yourself, I quipped, heart full. But climax demands descent. July heat wave baked the city, tempers flaring with the asphalt. Donald's crew hit a rough patch. Layoffs looming, stress etching lines deeper. One night, after too many beers at a backyard barbecue, Jake pulled him aside, words slurring thick. Man, you sure about this? Artist boys intense. You were QB, Don. King shit. I overheard from the porch, beer bottle sweating in my grip. Donald's laugh was forced. Yeah, well, kings fall. This? Real. But doubt's a seed watered by whispers. Days later, a call from his mom. Donnie's talking crazy. Says he misses the old life. Football. Girls' skirts. Heartache. Misplaced. I confronted him that night, dinner cooling untouched. You regretting us? His eyes widened, fork clattering. What? No, Mom's twisting shit. She's scared, Stephen. Of losing her boy. Am I losing you? Voice cracked, raw. He crossed the table in a heartbeat, cupping my face. Never. You're my north, remember? Kiss sealing it, fierce. Yet the storm brewed. August brought Mikey's revenge. Anonymous email to the gallery. The old photo attached with a note. Ask your star about his muse's dirty secrets. Whispers rippled. A collector pulled out. I spiraled, accusing Donald of leaks, old ties. It's him, he growled, fists clenched. That fucker's back. We traced it IP to a dive bar in Elmwood. Road trip turned reckoning. Confronting Mikey in a parking lot. Rain sheeting down, Donald's voice steady. We're done. You touch him again, it's cops. Not fists. Mikey sneered, but backed down. Photo purge promised under duress. Back home, soaked and shaking, we collapsed into each other. Sex born of survival, tender and tearing. I choose you, he vowed, over and over. A mantra against the dark. Fall circled back, leaves gold as grace. We adopted a mutt from the shelter. Rusty, all wagging chaos, and walked him along the lake, hands linked, futures sketched loose. No rings yet, but talks of white dresses for his sister's wedding. Us in matching suits, toasting under chuppas or arches. The arc bent toward light, but not without shadow's lesson. Love's no fairy tale, but a forge, hammering hurt into something stronger. At 25, we'd circle back to 21. To that rainy rooftop where hate cracked open to heart. And in the quiet moments, sketching his profile by lamplight, I'd whisper thanks to the bully who became my home. The autumn after the Mikey showdown felt like exhale after held breath. Chicago's windswept streets a canvas of amber and rust, mirroring the slow mend in us. Donald threw himself into job hunting, landing a gig with a nonprofit flipping foreclosures into affordable housing. His hands now crafting homes instead of hurling harm. Look, he'd say, showing me blueprints stained with coffee rings. This one's got a studio for you. Skylights, the works. I'd roll my eyes, but warmth bloomed. Visions of us in some fixer-upper, paint splattered and swearing over crown molding. My art flourished too. The scandal fizzled into buzz. Collectors drawn to the authenticity of my pain-laced lines. A commission came from a queer lit mag. Illustrations for a memoir on coming out in the Midwest. I poured Donald into it, his profile sharp against cornfield sunsets, vulnerability etched in every curve. But peace is prelude to storm. Thanksgiving loomed, a minefield of family facades. His mom insisted, dinner at her sister's in Elmwood, the epicenter of our origin sins. It'll be fine, he assured, packing the car with pie and promises. Aunt Rita's harmless. Mostly. Elmwood hadn't changed. Flatlands stretching endless, silos like sentinels. The high school a squat brick beast under November skies. Rita's house was a split-level shrine to Norman Rockwell, turkey centerpiece, kids' toys strewn like confetti. His cousins eyed me curious, the city friend. While Rita cooed over place settings, her smile tight as elastic. Dinner started civil. Grace said over mashed potatoes, small talk about weather and Wolverine scores. Then Uncle Ted, red-faced from wine, leaned in. "So, Donnie, when you bringing home a girl?" Clock's ticking, boy. The table hushed, forks pausing midair. Donald's jaw ticked, but he squeezed my knee under the cloth. "Actually, Uncle, Stephen's more than a friend. He's my partner." Rita's gasp was theatrical. Mom, flying in special, paled, clutching her napkin. "Partner? Like? Like love?" I interjected, voice steady. "The kind that sticks." Chaos crackled. Ted muttering about lifestyles. A cousin piping up with Bible verses. Rita fleeing to the kitchen in tears. Donald stood, chair scraping loud. "This is me. Deal or don't. But we're family too." We left early, pie abandoned. The drive back silent save for Rusty's whine from the back seat. At home, he punched the wall, drywall denting, knuckles splitting. "Fuck them." I bandaged him slow, antiseptic stinging. "You stood up. That's win enough." He pulled me close, blood-smeared lips on mine. "You make me brave." December healed fractures. His mom called, voice quavering. "I'm sorry. Trying to understand. Come for Christmas? Just us three." We did awkward eggnog toasts. Her gifting us matching mugs etched home is where the heart is. Progress pixel by pixel. But betrayal's shadow lengthened. New Year's, we rang in at a queer club in Boys Town. Glitter bombs and Gaga remixes, bodies pulsing free. Donald danced loose, hips grinding mine, sweat slick joy. Jake tagged along, contrite, buying rounds with tales of his own closet cracks. "You too? Goals," he slurred, clinking glasses. Midnight kiss under disco ball rain. His whisper hot. "Forever starts now." January bit back. A letter arrived certified from Elmwood PD. Donald's dad, fresh from parole, petitioning contact. "Wants to meet," he read, face ashen. "Says he's changed. Rehab, church." I set down my coffee, cautious. You owe him nothing. But ghosts demand audience. He went alone to a neutral diner, neutral ground, he joked, but eyes haunted after. "Told him about you." He cried. Said he was sorry for the beatings. The hate he beat into me. Empathy warred with rage. "And you believe him?" "Some. Enough to leave the door cracked. Not wide open." The visit stirred silt. Nightmares jolting him awake. Fists clenched in sleep. I'd soothe him wordless. Body to body. Anchors in the dark. But distance crept. Late nights at the flip site. Him dodging affection with tired, babe. February's chill deepened the rift. Valentine's he forgot. Text apology midday. Shit. Working late. Rain check. I spent it solo at the gallery. Toasting my reflection in champagne flutes. Pride stung. Doubt bloomed thorny. Then the bomb. A mutual friend. Buzzed at a bar. Spilling. Saw Don with his dad last week. Looked intense. Hugged it out. Even. My gut twisted. Lied again? I drove to the site. Floodlights harsh on skeletal frames. He was there, hammering joists, shirtless in the cold. Muscle taut, breath fogging. "With your dad." I yelled over the din without telling me. He dropped the hammer, wiping sweat. "Stephen, wait. It was one coffee. Testing waters." Lies stack, Donald. First the setup, now this. Crew paused. Awkward glances. He pulled me aside, voice low. "I'm not hiding. Swear. Dad's pushing, wants in on the wedding talk." I shut him down. Wedding. The word dangled, lure and trap. "You planning without me?" "No, God, no." Desperation cracked his tone. "I'm scared. Okay? Of fucking this up. Of being him." I walked away, heart hammering nails of its own. The fallout festered. Arguments escalated, dishes shattering, doors slamming. He slept on the couch. I sketched alone, lines jagged as accusations. Friends picked sides. Mine urging cut loose, his pleading patience. Climax crashed in March, spring tease turning torrent. Anonymous post on a local queer forum. Grainy pic of Donald and his dad at the diner, captioned reformed homophobe or wolf in sheeps. QB's daddy issues run deep. Comments piled, run, artist boy. Kane men don't change. I confronted him at dawn, laptop glowing accusatory. This you? Leaking to hurt me? His face drained white. What? No dad maybe. He knows people. Convenient. Sarcasm shield up. Or you're playing both sides. Bully by blood. He roared then, first time, fists balled, veins bulging. I'm not him. I've bled for us. Therapy? Coming out. Choosing you over everything. And yet here we are. Tears hot. Unchecked. Betrayed again. He deflated, sinking to knees. Don't. Please. I'll cut him off. For good. I left for the studio, door locking final. Days blurred, him blowing up my phone, me silencing all. Gallery called, show extension. But I couldn't face the eyes, the whispers. Rock bottom hit week 2. Alone in the empty apartment. He'd crashed with Jake. Rusty whining at the door. I scrolled old photos, rainy rooftop, lake sketches, sobs racking. Dialed him at 3 a.m., voice wrecked. Come home. He burst in minutes later, wild-eyed, scooping me up. Never leaving. Never. We wept together, confessions cascading. His fear of fatherhood's echo, my terror of abandonment's repeat. We're broken, I whispered. Together, he countered. Fixable. Therapy doubled, couple sessions in a sunlit office, unpacking trunks of trauma. His dad? Letter sent. Stay away. We're building without you. Mine? A bonfire of Elmwood mementos. Ashes scattered in the lake. April bloomed forgiveness. We renewed vows unofficial. Rooftop picnic. Rings promised but not yet. Champagne toasting us against the ghosts. Summer simmered steady. Flips completed. My book illustrations lauded. Trips to Pride where he marched louder than me. Fall circled, anniversary nearing, that bar meet 4 years on. We returned to the hideout, same stools, same jukebox croon. To unexpectedly, he toasted, eyes soft. To us, I echoed, kissing him deep, public proud whole. The bully faded, the boyfriend endured. In America's heartland grit, we carved grace from gravel. Love a rebellion sweet as pie. 1 year blurred into 2, the calendar flipping like pages in a well-loved sketchbook. Seasons cycling through Chicago's moods, from blistering summers where the lakefront baked under relentless sun to winters that turned the city into a glittering ice palace. All twinkling lights and bundled pedestrians hurrying toward warmth. Donald and I settled into the kind of rhythm that felt earned, not effortless. Mornings with coffee brewed strong and black, him scrolling job bids on his tablet while I roughed out concepts on napkins. Evenings walking Rusty along the dog beach at Montrose, his tail a blur of joy as gulls wheeled overhead. The nonprofit gig evolved into something bigger for him, a small firm specializing in queer-owned properties, converting abandoned warehouses into live-work lofts for artists and activists. Your influence, he'd say, grinning over blueprints, pointing to a corner office labeled Stephen's Studio. I'd snort, but secretly thrilled, watching him bloom from roughneck to visionary, his once broad shoulders now carrying dreams instead of defenses. My art? It exploded. The memoir illustrations led to a children's book deal. Gentle tales of boys holding hands under rainbow arches, normalizing what Elmwood had demonized. Galleries clamored. A TEDx talk invite landed. Me on stage in jeans and a tee, voice steady as I unpacked bullying's brushstrokes on the soul. Backstage, Donald waited with flowers. Daisies, my favorite, wild and unpretentious. Kissing me fierce. You slayed, babe. But growth's shadow is scrutiny. His dad's shadow lingered, sporadic letters pleading redemption. Ignored until one autumn afternoon when parole ended clean. A knock at the firm. Donald frozen behind his desk, me dropping off lunch. The man in the doorway was a specter. Gaunt, graying, eyes like Donald's but hollowed by years inside. Son, he rasped, voice tobacco rough. Just wanna talk. Donald's hand found mine under the desk. Grip iron. No, we're done. The rejection hung, but Dad didn't slink away. Weeks later, a package. Old photos yellowed. Young Donald in Little League, grinning gap-toothed. Family barbecues where his mom laughed free. A note. I was wrong. Let me make it right. For you both. Empathy tugged. Insidious. One coffee. I suggested over dinner, pasta twirling forgotten. Neutral. With backup. He nodded, wary. We met at a bustling Starbucks in the Loop, crowded, safe. Dad arrived early, suit ill-fitting, hands fidgeting with a styrofoam cup. Apologies tumbled. Beatings born of his own father's rage. Homophobia a mask for confusion he'd never unpacked. When you came out, I saw my failures staring back. Donald listened, jaw tight, then spoke. Actions, not words. Show up for Pride next June. March with us. The gauntlet thrown, Dad accepted. Tentative bridge over abyss. Spring brought tests. My solo show toured. First stop New York. Glittering chaos of galleries and grit. Donald came, suit sharp, holding my hand at the opening where critics buzzed like bees. But jet lag and jealousy nipped. A flirty curator, all smiles and lingering touches, planting seeds of doubt. Back home, arguments flared. Him accusing insecurity. Me hurling bully echoes. Trust me, he pleaded, voice breaking. Or we're dust. We chose trust, therapy reinforcing seams. Summer crested with pride, massive, electric, the city a river of rainbows. Dad showed. Awkward in a love wins T2 sizes small. Marching beside us, sign trembling. Proud Dad, finally. Tears streaked his face at the rally. Donald's arm around him, mine around Donald. Catharsis, hard won. Fall deep in bonds. Proposal came quiet. October fog rolling off the lake. Us on that rooftop, for years since the rain kiss. He dropped to one knee, ring simple, silver band etched with a compass rose. Navigate with me? Forever. Yes? I choked, pulling him up, sealing it under stars. Wedding planning wove whimsy. Venue a converted barn in Saugatuck. Guests a mix of art weirdos and construction kin. His mom walked him down the aisle, her smile genuine. My best man, a gallery pal, toasted from torment to triumph. Vows exchanged under autumn arches, leaves confetti gold. I bullied your body, but you healed my heart, he said, voice thick. I promise to cherish, challenge, choose you, every shadowed day. Mine. You broke me open, but rebuilt us stronger. I vow art in our life, colors bold, lines true. Cheers erupted, cake cut, dance floor alive. Dad lingered at the edge, eyes wet, redemption's quiet witness. Honeymoon in Provincetown. Dunes and drag shows, bike rides to beaches where we swam naked, waves crashing applause. Nights tangled in beach house sheets. His body a map I'd memorized, whispers of futures. Adoption talks, maybe, or fostering the lost boys we'd both been. Back in Chicago, life layered richer. Rusty upgraded to a yard in our first flip. A cozy bungalow in Andersonville. Walls painted sky blue. Studio flooded with north light. Conflicts came. Money tight, creative blocks, his travel for conferences clashing my deadlines. But we bent, not broke. Communication our glue. Climax revisited in Winter's Grip, Year 3. Dad relapsed, DUI landing him back inside. Blame ricocheted. Donald spiraling, drinking too much, snapping at shadows. I'm him, he confessed one blizzard night, bottle in hand. Rotten core. I wrestled it from him, holding firm. No, your choice. Every day you choose better. Intervention. Group for adult children of abusers. Us attending tandem. Healing have the hurt. Spring bloomed by kids. Fostering first. A scared 14-year-old named Alex. All sharp edges and hidden sketches. Donald coached his soccer, gentle. I taught drawing, watching walls crack. Adoption papers filed by summer. Family forged in fragments. Years stacked. 5, 10. Gray threading our hair. lines laughter-etched. Gallery retrospectives for me. Donald's firm a beacon for queer housing. Alex grew out and proud, college-bound with a portfolio of his own. At 50, we'd return to Elmwood, not ghosts, but guides. Workshop for at-risk youth. Donald speaking raw, me illustrating the slides. Bullied kids leaned in, eyes wide, hope spark. The bully who tormented me at 17 became my husband at 23. Father at 30, partner eternal. Unexpected, utterly, human, profoundly. In America's vast, varied heart, we proved love's the ultimate rebellion, messy, mending, magnificently ours.